Jesus said to his disciples, "Occasions for stumbling are bound to come, but woe to anyone by whom they come. It would be better for you if a millstone were hung around your neck and you were thrown into the sea, than for you to cause one of these little ones to stumble. Be on your guard. If another disciple sins, you must rebuke the offender, and if there is repentance, you must forgive. And if the same person sins against you 7 times a day, and turns back to you 7 times and says, 'I repent,' you must forgive." The apostles said to the Lord, "Increase our faith." The Lord replied, "If you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could say to this mulberry tree, 'Be uprooted and planted in the sea,' and it would obey you. Who among you would say to your slave who has just come in from plowing and tending in the field, 'Come here at once and take your place at the table'? Would you not rather say to him, 'Prepare supper for me, put on your apron and serve me while I eat and drink. Later you may eat and drink'? Do you thank the slave for doing what was commanded? So you also, when you have done all that you were ordered to do, say, 'We are worthless slaves. We have done only what we ought to have done.'" May God bless the reading of this word. So, this discipleship thing that we're saying yes to, who said yes so far? Lots of people. It's rough, right? This is not for whips. This is something that's tough. We've talked about ministry. We've talked about how, we're supposed to be like the woman who sweeps the house for people and finding the lost. We're supposed to be talking to people and looking at who's outside our gate. Who's God placed outside our gate that we're supposed to be taking care of? The hungry, the sick, the homeless, the oppressed, the marginalized. Now, Jesus tells the disciples, us, listen, you're going to mess up. Oh, thank goodness, right? Anybody ever messed up? Except then he adds that little thing. You're going to stumble, but woe to anybody who causes somebody to stumble. Now there's an old saying, right? I don't know what woe is, but I learned a long time ago, I don't want it, right? We don't know woe, but we do know that it's better for you to have a millstone thrown around your neck and be thrown into the sea than to cause somebody else to trip. Now, if that's not enough pressure, then Jesus goes on to say, then you have to forgive. And guess what? Not just one time. If a person offends you, you forgive them once, twice, every single time they come to you, you forgive them. Every single time. 7 times a day, forgive. So the disciples, clearly, this resonates with me, the disciples say, well, then increase our faith. I don't have enough to do this thing. Does that make sense to anybody? So, Jesus says to them, you have faith the size of a mustard seed. Then you could say to this mulberry tree, and we believe he was pointing to a specific tree, this mulberry tree, uproot yourself and plant yourself in the sea. And the mulberry tree will obey. So all week, right? I get this part about forgiveness. I get that it's hard. I get that all of the things that we're supposed to do may be outside my reach. I get that God has implanted the seed of faith in me. I get that it's big. I get that it can grow. But the thing I don't get is, why did Jesus use, and Luke actually record Jesus as saying mulberry tree? Because in the other Gospels, it says what? Mountain. It says mountain. If you say to this mountain, move, the mountain will move. But Luke is the only gospel writer who talks about the mulberry tree. Now, actually, this bothered me so much that I had to look it up, right? Because, why? Because I have issues, right? So I look it up. Here's what it finds out. It's not actually a mulberry tree. This is called a sycamore tree. Sycamore tree. And it's a cross, actually, between a fig tree and a mulberry tree, and it grew prolifically in the Near East. It also still grows today. Now, it was used for two things in Jesus' time. One, for its fruit, which, unlike the mulberry tree, which has that very sweet, sweet fruit, this fruit is bitter because it's a cross between that fig and the mulberry, but for some reason it makes it bitter. So people can't eat it all at one time. You have to go back and eat it over time because you can't take that bitterness. The second thing it was used for was caskets. Why would Jesus use a tree that's used for building caskets, for putting corpses in? So let's go back. Forgiveness. Forgive 1 time, 2 times, 6 times, 10 times. I think it's a tall order. But I do know, if I go back to what that tree is like, I can understand a little bit more about the forgiveness that I have to show and how I can try to play it out. Has anybody ever had a mulberry tree? Because we're much more familiar with mulberry trees than fig trees. Tell me about the mulberry tree. Howard?
My mother, who, by the way, I welcome today. My mom likes to, she still does this, she writes notes. And there was a note on our front door: do not bring in those filthy, disgusting, wretched mulberries and track them on my carpet. She hated that tree, and it was huge. It was giant, and my brother and I used to play in the tree. It hung over top of the driveway and the house next door. It was giant, its roots ran into the house. It was a huge mess. It was beautiful from the outside, but it had a bit of it.
Did you know in ancient Israel, you were not allowed to put your mulberry tree within 50 yards of a neighbor's well?
Wow.
Those berries sting everything. The worst part is the roots go down so deep that you can't kill that tree by cutting it down. If you cut that tree down, you know what happens? It grows back. You can pour concrete on the roots. It won't matter. There is more root structure underneath the tree than is visible on top. And it gets water sources from all over underneath the earth, deep below where we can see. Is it any wonder then that we can start to talk about forgiveness and relate it to this tree? Is there some similarity that you can see between the mulberry tree, its prolific roots, its staining everything it touches, and unforgiveness? To me, also having them build caskets with it, what happens if you don't forgive? You kill yourself. You get sick and die. They have now scientific studies that come out all the time, weekly, about how stress and disease kills. It's stress comes from disease. Disease starts to work and kill you. It's a pretty amazing thing when you think about it. So let's talk about it then. How do we let go? If we're supposed to forgive, not just 1 time, not just 7 times, 70 times 7, right? How do we do it? Because like the mulberry tree, if you don't tend to the things that bother you and the things that you have to forgive, it's going to eat into everything. So what I'd like you to do is if everybody could just picture in your head, and I know we all have them, one person place, situation that you have held on to and you have not forgiven. I'm not doing this to upset you. I'm just doing it so you can understand the depth of what you still feel. And if you're like me, you can play those situations over and over in your mind, can't you? You remember the moment that that person hurt you. You remember that exact place where you were when that hurt happened that cut you so deep, the betrayal that you felt. Jesus says to let it go. If we do that, what happens then to the little thing that plays in our head over and over? We're told forgiveness helps us. We're told forgiveness gives compassion to the person who hurt us. We're told that we're supposed to do that. But why then do we keep playing those little scenes over and over and over in our mind, that little movie reel that we can remember at the depth of the hurt? What are we getting out of it? I'm not going to give you the answer, because for each of us it's different. I don't know what your hurt was. I don't know why you have trouble letting it go. I know why I have trouble letting it go, but I trust me on this one. If you don't, and if you don't figure out how to give it to God so that God can take care of it and heal you, I promise you, like this mulberry tree that you think you've cut down, it will come up and all of a sudden hit you in the face, the whole tree. One of the ways that we can do this, that I believe why Jesus is telling us this, is that we have this community together that can encourage us to share with one another. Yes. How do we forgive? What worked for you, Johnny D? What worked for you, George? How did you do it, Kathleen? Because I'm struggling and I don't know how to do it. But I do know that we're together so that we can learn from each other. All of our stuff is so heavy and it can weigh us down and make you feel like you don't want to get up in the morning. Or you find that person that all of a sudden you thought you forgave and there they are. Hits you all in the face again. It's a horrible feeling. A part of the beauty of this community is the openness that we can share with one another. You know, Jesus ends this whole thing by saying about the slaves. What does he say about the slaves? You should act like, do you think that it's better that you're slaves? Do you think that it would be fine that your slave would come in and say, you know, cook me dinner? No, that's not the way it is. The slave comes in and cooks dinner, and then the slave does what they're supposed to do. You can use slave, servant, same thing. It's Jesus' version, my friends, of just saying, just do it. Just do it. Not too much like Nike, but just being able to say, you know what? You can give all the excuses for not wanting to forgive. You can give all the excuses you want for staying out of community with somebody and not reconciling the things that you have to. But I'm calling you to do that. That's part of discipleship. You say yes every single time. Every single time. And if you can't do it, figure out a way to get help to do it. Come and see me. Come and see any of the wise people in this room. That's why we have each other. The connection that we feel, it's real. That's not something that you just slop off. My prayer for us today is that as we walk forward in forgiveness, we can remember how we can get back to where we were, how we can get back to where God, and grow into what God has designed us to be. And we can only do it together, I promise you. As we come to communion today, today is World Communion Sunday. We take we take in awareness that we are not the only ones out here on this mission field, right? We are not the only ones that have said yes to God. That there are churches around the world that are celebrating our common spirit of Christ at the same time that we're doing it. But in here, as long as we're working on this, why not pray about it before you come? Why not give to God the situation, the person, the hurt? If you want to share it with someone, you can share it with someone. Pastor Jen and I will be on the sides if you want to come and pray. But don't wait another minute. They'll eat you up, and you'll end up in that tree as casket, right?